Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books, and I finished another book and I think this is up there as one of my favourite books, which makes sense considering that the first book of this series is probably one of my favourite books. When I think of my favourite books, I've got Adeline Yenma's Chinese Cinderella and Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale. So imagine my amazement when I saw that The Testaments, the sequel to Handmaid's Tale, was on BorrowBox. Oh. So that's the front cover of the book. It is set 16 years, more or less, after the events of the first book. And oh my goodness, this book was insane. It's so disturbing, yet so amazing. To the point when I was having dreams and daydreams and nightmares about all of it. Happened with me with the first book, and also when I was watching the series, because I was terrified of Aunt Lydia. Now if you read The Testaments, you'll know where this is going. Aunt Lydia scared the bejesus out of me in the series, and I had nightmares about her, to the point where I actually had to look up interviews with Anne Dowd, the actress who plays Aunt Lydia, to get the image of Aunt Lydia out of my head and have Anne Dowd there instead. And Anne Dowd seemed like the loveliest, most amazing person, to the fact that she plays Aunt Lydia so disturbingly perfectly. I'm just going to get straight in with the blurb. More than 15 years after the events of The Handmaid's Tale, the theocratic regime of the Republic of Gilead maintains its grip on power, but there are signs it is beginning to rot from within. At this crucial moment, the lives of three radically different women converge with potentially explosive results. Two have grown up as part of the first generation to come of age in the new order. The testimonies of these two young women are joined by a third voice, a woman who wields power through the ruthless accumulation and deployment of secrets. As Atwood unfolds The Testaments, she opens up the innermost workings of Gilead, as each woman is forced to come to terms with who she is and how far she will go for what she believes. Obviously, in the blurb it doesn't say who you're hearing from, so as you start to realise who you are hearing from, it becomes absolutely terrifying and perfect, and everything rolled into one. Dystopian future is all I'm going to say. If you like a dystopian future, you'll like The Handmaid's Tale and The Testaments. Even though it's from the point of view of three women, I don't think men or otherwise should be put off. But it is so disturbing and I love it. Yeah, so it alternates between the three women, and it's presented as manuscript by one and testimonies of the other two. So you've got the Ardua Hall holograph, where you find out that you are hearing from the point of view of one of the aunts. When it comes out that it was Aunt Lydia, I realised how much it would affect my viewing of the series as I'm binge watching it at the moment, and also makes me want to reread The Handmaid's Tale, the first one, because I realise it kind of turns the whole thing on its head. It makes Aunt Lydia fascinating, kind of more terrifying, but also humanises her at the same time. So you're given Lydia's backstory. You find out she's a judge. I will say, I think the television series has now looked into Lydia's history and background in the later series. I'm currently halfway through season 2, so I'm not there yet. I'm coming up to round about the point when I stopped watching, but I needed to kind of watch it all to get myself back in the frame of mind of remembering where everything was so that I can join season 3. But yeah, so you find out Lydia's backstory and how she was divorced, she's a judge, and kind of her whole story leading up to being recruited by Gilead and her role in the origins of Gilead and the aunts. And when you find out that, I'm just going to have to spoil it, you basically find out that Lydia is a double agent. It just made my mind just go bleh when I found that out. And you see her relationships between a commander called Commander Judd and her relationship with the other aunts and with the girls that they are training to be aunts. It's weird to see it like this, having known the story of Aunt Lydia from the previous book in the series. And you realise that, because I mean, I think in the series and in the last book, well, to be fair, in the book you didn't really get that much about Lydia. It definitely delved a bit more into kind of her kind of heartwarming side, if you can call it that. In the series you definitely see that Aunt Lydia has a soft spot, and she does genuinely care about the girls. And when I say girls, I do mean the handmaids. You realise through this book that she put things in place to protect the women from the men, which in this book and the series, it's not completely obvious at first of what she's done. But it's like Ardua Hall, where they are training the new aunts, she puts a rule in place pretty much straight away saying that no men are allowed inside the building. It has to be a protected place for the aunts where they can get on with their jobs. There does come a point in the book when some men do infiltrate the building and Lydia gets a bit pissed off, but she doesn't actually show it to the person who does infiltrate the building, mainly because she kind of understands why he's done it. For the first half of the book, you hear her referred to as Jemima a lot, and then as she grows up you hear her more being called Agnes, and she is the daughter of a commander, so she has lived and has been brought up in Gilead. She doesn't know anything outside of Gilead, so she identifies as quite religious, because obviously Gilead is kind of set up upon a religious pedestal. She has a loving relationship with her mother Tabitha, who then she later learns isn't actually her real mother, and so that sends her on a bit of a question mark over kind of everything that she's known and everything that she's learnt about herself and her family. And then she finds out that her father isn't her father remarries after her mother has died, and she's there questioning who she is and her role in Gilead and where she wants to end up. She is supposed to be married off to Commander Judd. There's a point when they set her up to get married because they know that her real mother was able to actually give birth. They think that Agnes Jemima will quite possibly be able to have her own children as well. But yeah, so they, at about 13, I think she is, when they try to marry her off. But yeah, she's about 13 when they're just like, okay, so you've gotten your period, so you're an adult now, and so we are going to put you with one of the finest commanders, which is Commander Judd, who is like in his 50s and all his previous wives have died, which just makes it 10 times more terrifying for Agnes Jemima, because she just thinks, when he's done with me, he's just going to kill me. And then the aunts get involved and put in her mind that she can get out of getting married if she says she has a higher calling, which is to become an aunt. So she uses that excuse and she tries to kind of pretend to go along with things, and then she says, I think I'm destined for greater things than marrying this commander. I think I need to be an aunt. And so she gets whisked away into Ardua Hall so that she can train to become an aunt. If you ask me how long this the time frame across the book, because they are adults by the end of the book, so to be fair, the very final chapter skips ahead even further to when Gilead has fallen, just like the first book did. The actual time frame I'm not completely sure of, but yes, so you've got Agnes Jemima, adopted daughter of Commander Kyle and his wife Tabitha, but you only find that out after Tabitha dies. And then also got a girl named Daisy, who is a few years younger than Agnes, and she grows up in Toronto in Canada, so she's on the other side of it. She's in Canada watching what's happening, but she's never known the inside of Gilead as far as she's concerned. And she lives with her adopted parents, Neil and Melanie. You realise that at school she's kind of like skates by, she has her friends and stuff, but her parents own kind of a second-hand clothes shop, which Daisy is kind of a bit judgmental about, because she's just like, oh, who's going to want our second-hand clothes? And she's wondering where on earth these things, the clothes go, and she doesn't really realise what's going on. There comes a point when Daisy's adoptive parents are blown up outside the shop, and that is when Daisy's world falls apart. She goes, oh okay, so Neil and Melanie are dead. And then she finds out that she was actually born in Gilead and she was smuggled out by her parents. I think in both stories they're not actually aware that their parents aren't actually their parents. It's only when all hell breaks loose that they're just like, oh wait, the people who I thought my parents were this whole time weren't actually, and there's a whole other life that I had that I don't remember. I will say, because of the time frame, to be honest, it was mainly the stories that you hear Agnes's mother tell Agnes about, kind of like, I loved you, you know, we've got this dreams about running through a forest and being chased by like witches and things. And I was just thinking, this story sounds eerily familiar. And so when it comes out that Agnes's mother isn't her mother, and you look at the stories that Tabitha was telling Agnes the whole time, you realise, oh, she was telling a story from the wrong side. And those stories that she was telling Agnes were truer than you think. That's when you realise that Agnes was the daughter of a handmaid. The handmaid tried to take her out of Gilead, and the handmaid managed to get out, but the child was brought back. I'm sure anybody who's read Handmaid's Tale will be recognising that story and be thinking, oh, I wonder if... I'll just say, yes, you are right, because that's where my brain went. So, Offred in the book, or June as you see her in the series, because her name isn't actually explicitly stated as June in the book, she and her husband tried to escape to Canada in the event of the first book, when you have in the flashbacks to the creation of Gilead. And basically June's husband manages to get across the border to Canada, but June and her daughter are captured and separated. So June becomes a handmaid and you don't find out what happened to her daughter. In the book, in the series, you find out that of Fred's commander and wife do actually know the location of her daughter and use it as leverage when June gives birth to their daughter. I say their daughter, it's June's daughter. But when she has another child as a handmaid, they use the location of her first daughter as leverage to get her to stay and to hand over her new daughter, which June doesn't want to do. She doesn't want to do that because she's just like, this isn't your child. This child is not directly related to you in any way. My commander is sterile. His wife is batshit crazy. I'll go into more of that when I talk to you about my currently binge watching thing. I just whacked myself in the nose. You definitely need to read the first book to understand stuff. Without the first book, you have no idea what's going on for the majority of this book. So yeah, Daisy, her parents Melanie and Neil are blown up outside of the shop, and that was when everything falls apart for Daisy, and she realises that she's not who she thinks she is. In the first book, when June gives birth to her new daughter, and the name that she gives her child is a nod to the actual father of the baby, Nick, so she names her daughter Nicole. In this book, you realise that baby Nicole has become a bit of a sensationalised god-type figure, because everybody knows about baby Nicole. They know that she was smuggled out of Gilead, and they've been looking for her for like 16 years, basically. And so everybody knows who she is. Daisy knows who she is. Daisy wrote an essay at school about baby Nicole, and so when her step-parents are killed and she realises that she's not who she thinks she is, it then comes out that she is baby Nicole, and she is to be protected at all costs. They do not want anybody to know that she is Nicole. But then you find out that Aunt Lydia, the double agent who has been getting information from both sides and is kind of integral to the fall of Gilead in the end, has known where baby Nicole is for a while, and she is orchestrating baby Nicole's return to Gilead for multiple reasons. There's just so much to unpack, and I don't want to talk about everything, obviously, because I don't want to spoil absolutely everything, and that's quite a lot of information I've already spoiled by just talking about the first 150 pages. Was this book about 500 pages long? I've read most of it on my phone, so I think it's I don't think it's quite as long as that. It says 432 pages on ebook, so we probably put that at about 420 pages. It's in literary fiction and science fiction. I'm surprised that it didn't mention dystopian future in the genre, because I've seen books do that before, but oh my god, it was just so good. I absolutely love it. I loved, to be honest, I think Margaret Atwood is a brilliant writer. I haven't read anything else by her apart from Handmaid's Tale and The Testament, so I'm very intrigued as to what her other books are like. It is just so interesting, and the whole thing about Gilead is absolutely terrifying. It is terrifying. It is such an incredible concept. The fact that the first book was written in the 80s and was so relevant when the series came out, when the TV series came out. When I've been reading it at work, when I've been walking around work after I've been reading it, it feels like it makes me walk in a different way. That probably sounds really bizarre, but when I'm walking around work, because I have to wear a mask still at work, I know not everybody does, but you know, I have to wear a mask pretty much all day, and because the only time we really take it off is like between treatments or at lunch, but for most of the day I am wearing a mask. And so when I walk around wearing a mask, and I'm just thinking, this feels really weird. Having read Handmaid's Tale and seen how women are treated, it just makes me feel different in myself. It makes me feel different about the way I'm walking, makes me feel different about the way I'm working, and it's just because I think it's partly to do with how it's described about how women's rights are taken away. I'm just thinking, what would I do if somebody came into my place of work and told me, all your money has now gone to your male next of kin? I'd be there really pissed off, because I've been saving up money for a really long time to get my place. Judging me for my past relationships, telling me that my degrees don't mean anything, that I'm not allowed to read anymore, and that I have essentially no rights, and that I might have to go work as a handmaid in Gilead. Yeah, it's sent my imagination wild, this book, thinking about what would happen if it actually happened. And in this case, Gilead has taken over in America. And when you see about how it happens, and you look at some things that happened during the Trump presidency, and I'm just thinking, there are people out there that think this kind of thing is a good idea. And that's terrifying. And I think that's what makes this story so fascinating. And the fact that, obviously, the origins of what is happening in the Testament, which was released in 2019, and obviously the fact that Handmaid's Tale was written in the 80s, and yet how so much of it is relevant nowadays, and the way that people are turning on each other, and the way that politics is affecting us. Can you see the cogs turning in my head? The fact that it really makes you think about what you take for granted. It's like, for me, reading is one of my favourite things to do. I love being able to escape into a book, and the fact that in Gilead women are not allowed to read because the men know that it's telling, actually, because it shows that the men know that women reading means knowledge and power, and they're just like, we cannot have women realising that they have the power too. My battery's about to die, so I better wrap this up. But yeah, I just think it's so clever as to what it makes you think of. Does that make any sense? Anyway, I'll wrap this up, because I have no idea what I've said anymore. Oh yeah, it's just so fabulously disturbing. I just spit. Anyway, I need to get ready for work because I'll be leaving in about 15 minutes. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I might have to do another video about this because I have no idea what I've said. Yeah, so thanks for watching. That was The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. Brilliant, brilliant book. If you like a dystopian future, go for it. If you like something a bit sciencey, science fiction type, go for it. Yeah, just bloody brilliant. Cog's still turning. It just really made me look at my own life in a completely different way and how I would be affected by this kind of regime and how the world would be affected by this kind of regime, because you see other countries getting involved in that fight and then saying, well, we still need to have a relationship with this regime and country, because Gilead is essentially a country at this point. And yeah, the fact that people won't go to war with Gilead because they're just like, well, we need a relationship, we need to have things in place, we need to have a friendship almost. And that's why people don't turn on it. Which is why, at the end of it, the downfall of Gilead comes from within, from the double agent, from Aunt Lydia. Oh, it's just so good, it's just so good. But yeah, if you haven't, read Handmaid's Tale, read The Testament, watch the series. The series is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I need to go. Love you. See you next week with another video. Bye.